Hey guys, it's Jen coming to you live. Well, not live, but from Vietnam. I am so sorry it's taken a long time to post another video. Bet you guys are wondering what's going on. So today's video, I'm just going to do a journal spread, just the typical way that I've started to do them. And I'm also going to try to have these videos more organized and kind of have a narration of just what's going on with my life and just giving more background into why we're here. And I think in every subsequent video, I'm going to try to just continue from the previous video and just kind of do like a story type format because I don't know how to explain journaling with me videos. I mean, it's just self-evident what's going on in the video. So I have some notes. I'm like really super organized kind of, and I'm just gonna go back into more background on why we left. I've already kind of touched on it a little bit in previous videos, but I'm going to try to give more of a background just in case you are thinking about doing something similar or you're struggling through similar issues that I have gone through with my family. And this is going to be kind of in the distant past. It's not going to be like my childhood, like right away. I'm thinking about going there later, but I haven't made like a firm decision on that yet. So I'm just going to go into the reasons why we decided to move to Vietnam. And then in the next video, if I can finish everything in this video, I think I'll go more in depth into like why we chose Vietnam and like how we got there. So one of the first reason I put, it's in no particular order of importance, but the first one I put is that we were in a very conservative leaning small rural town. And the reason we chose this area, my husband had gotten out of the military, and I think it was like 2012, I think. My son was 1 year old, I think. And we were living in South Korea. So that kind of gives you more reasoning why we're in Asia right now. But we were in Korea, and we had a great time there. We had great experiences, some bad experiences, but overall it was good. But most importantly, for my husband's job, it was painful for him. And there was some things that happened, and I think people talked about his commander behind his back and referred to him as Hitler and stuff. And I think this man had a lot of deployments previous to being stationed in Korea. And so they put them through a lot of crap, basically. I think at one point my husband was accused of losing a building. Okay, this is just, I'm not going to go into depth with that, but like when you change command, you have to turn back in equipment that you are signed out for, and it just a lot of drama happened with that. And yes, I guess you can be responsible for a whole building, and it's so confusing. But anyway, he had got his tires slashed. His commander was so bad that somebody had actually slashed his tires, and because of a decision this guy made, somebody in my husband's company, or was he a company commander? Yeah, somebody in his company ended up getting frostbite and like losing a toe. I mean, it was a mess. So we both together decided that we didn't want to live a military life with children because he was gone so much. And oh gosh, this was not even on my list to talk about this, but anyway, he was gone a lot, having to stay overnight in his office, and I had a new baby, and my baby started teething, and I would be by myself having to get up and just no support, basically. So we decided like we didn't want to have that lifestyle with our kids. So anyway, the idea was to go back home to Florida. and get work there. Maybe I was going to go back to school. I really wanted to work for the Red Cross, the American Red Cross, because I had volunteered a little bit in Korea, and I enjoyed the organization and their mission and what they stood for. So I was going to try to get employment in Florida. And while we were there with the new baby, he was 1. My stepmom was kind of toxic, and it was very uncomfortable. Like, we were staying on their property and they let us stay in their camper, as we were adjusting. But my stepmom has like major like anxiety issues and just really strong irritability. And at one point, my son was like touching like a DVD or a DVR machine, and she goes, "No," and like clapped, like smacked her hands. And I looked at her and I said, "No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that." And I took my kid by the hand and like left the room. And this just set her off. She left the house. Like, it's like she'd never, like, they expected us, like their kids, to be children and very authoritative, and never being able to speak up for yourself, defend yourself, be assertive. Oh, this, my daughter's showing me a tale that she's been working on with yarn. It's almost done. It's really a lot fuller and fluffier than this. So anyway, I decided, okay, I just can't live here anymore. She's very passive aggressive, and just it was a bad situation. And time again, I have had to leave the house because I was never allowed to express myself, or say how I feel. It was just very non-confrontational, like, family. And to this day, I cannot like speak up for myself. I can't have like an adult like neutral conversation. It's like either I avoid or I get like extremely angry. There's no in between. There was no practice at communicating in like a healthy adult way. So anyway, we moved all of our stuff out of their camper. And just to give you an example of how passive aggressive this was, the day we were leaving, and this is just minor, but it just goes to show how ridiculous she is. We were moving our stuff out of the camper, and they had set up these pavers as kind of like a walkway to like get out of the camper and like walk to your car. And she started removing them as we were taking out luggage. And like, I'm carrying a baby around, and like she removed the pavers. Like, it's like this couldn't wait until like after. It was ridiculous. So anyway, needless to say, I did end up getting a job with Red Cross. I was very idealistic. I had rose-colored glasses because I hadn't officially gotten a job after grad school. I did have one job in a state hospital, but in the first week I was there. Oh, this was not even on my list. I'm just gonna go with it. This is a few years before this. I had graduated with my master's in psychology, and I moved to Columbus, Georgia, because my husband was stationed there in the infantry. And interviewed for a few jobs. I was really excited. I was happy. I got a master's degree. I felt so smart. I passed my comprehensive exams. I did a research project. So I, presented research at a conference. I did all this cool stuff. And I interviewed for a job it was called, well, I'm not going to say the name of it, but it was like a Christian counseling thing. And the guy there, that interviewed me, he said that I would need to be given therapy by him before I worked there, not supervising me, because when you're a clinician or a therapist, you get supervised and you can talk about your caseload with your supervisor, and those are the people that are signing off on your hours and just making sure you're doing everything in an ethical and professional way. And no, this was therapy. And I just was not comfortable with that. I don't want to have therapy with the people I'm working with or my boss. That was very awkward to me. So that didn't seem right. And so then I got a job at a state hospital, and it was a forensic unit. It was a locked up unit for people accused of crimes, but they were not yet fit to stand trial because of mental illness. They couldn't understand their rights, so they had to, be in a hospital first, get medicated, get therapy, and that kind of thing. And oh man, I was so excited. I was so young, and and one of the patients was telling me, hey, I'm having trouble sleeping. I'm having these nightmares. I'm having bad dreams. And then in the team meeting, this is when you meet together with nurses and doctors and psychiatrists. And then my section was like the forensic psychology. And I said, oh, this is what the patient said. They're having really bad dreams. And what's happening is he's waking up early and he's not able to get back to sleep because the medicine wears off. And one of the doctors just looks at me and says, he always says that, and he's just wanting drugs, basically. So that was kind of a disappointment. And in these team treatment meetings, sometimes they'll have patients come in and we all ask questions. So this guy comes in, I think it's my first or second day, and he's across from me, and it's a conference table. He jumps, I don't even think there's any men in the conference room at this point. I think they left, and it was the end of the meeting. He jumps on the conference table with his arms stretched out in front of him, aiming at my throat, and I stand back against the wall, and I'm completely freaked out. I was trying to escape. So that was crazy. I don't know what happened. I have no memory of what happened afterwards. I was safe. I never got touched. And everyone's like, wow, on your first day, are you going to leave, And I'm like, no, it's okay. It's cool. It's fine. It was just such an experience. And the ward, the medical ward where all these people stayed, it was U-shaped. So the nurse's desk was in the middle of this, at the bottom of the U shape. And then at the top of the U shape on either side was the exit. And I had to key through all of these different keyholes to enter and exit out of there. And every time I would do so, a patient would end up cornering me, and asking me personal questions about myself. Oh, how old are you? Da, da, da. And nurses wouldn't do anything. And there was these mirrors so that they could see what was happening. And I'm just oh, no, Southern raised to be nice and respectful. Again, that authoritative, or the authoritarian parenting style. Oh, haha, just fawn, you know what I mean? Oh, it's there. And so I would key out of there. The other thing that happened, this was not on my list, but I'll continue in the next video. But the other thing that was going on, and I swear to God, I am not lying about this, okay? There was another girl that was she was in the same job as me. And basically we were assistant, we were psychometrists, and we would do I don't even know if I did do counseling or not. I think I would go in and check in with people bedside, and I would, chat with them. And I think I gave assessments. I can't even remember what all I was doing, but she was in the same position as me, and we both worked for these two doctors. They were PhD levels. And one of the guys, and what they would do is they would testify in court and say whether or not these patients were ready to stand trial and stuff, and they would share assessment data and all this stuff. And whenever I was around, I would witness him harassing her sexually, sexually flirting with her. And to me, this just really creeped me out. I mean, I knew this was completely wrong, and she would just laugh about it and fawn, I mean, I thought I was taking crazy pills. She just thought it was totally fine, totally normal, haha, hee hee, laughing about it. And I was so creeped. I was so taken aback by it, just so creeped out. And I had an experience in grad school with a supervisor at the VA that was completely inappropriate. It was this huge drama thing. So I knew what was going on here. And so I became completely avoidant. Again, I'm not confrontational. And whenever somebody is dangerous and I don't trust them, I avoid them like the plague, you know? And the two doctors would invite me to go eat lunch with them at the cafeteria. And I just didn't want to. And on one hand, it looks like unprofessional and immature not to go to lunch with your supervisors. And it's at the hospital cafeteria, you know, it's right there. So you can get like, mentorship and supervision and, stuff like that right there, networking, that kind of stuff. But because I saw him treating my coworker like this, I did not want to have anything to do with them. I just wanted to keep it completely professional. And I was in a different building, luckily. I was in the hospital section and they were in some kind of administrative building. And the one guy that would like sexually flirt with my coworker, he actually invited me to go to a trial. And like normally that would be like important for my job, like to see it and to get experience and learn how to do it, to do forensic psychology. But I just didn't want to. I avoided it. So I think the last straw at this job, and I think I was there for a month, and it was just a whirlwind. And this was in a small town in Georgia. I probably already said the name of it. But the last straw was the charge nurse did not like me. I don't know why. The receptionist lady, the main lady that worked there, she was nice and she was great. And I had an office right there, like when you come into the building. And I think I could enter it from the like lobby, and then I could also exit it to a hallway that led to the ward, the lockdown ward, medical wing. And I had like stuff in my office. It was mine. I didn't have a key yet. And I had, I would have to write on my computer and do psych reports. I think I did have a login name, but for some reason, I always remember this. I had paper files. I believe I did, because for some reason, this is always in my memory. And I started to come to my office in the mornings and stuff would be moved like in my office. And I would have like trash, like cans of soda or something like in my trash that had not been mine. And I'm like, what is going on here, And come to find out, like, there was nurses that would be there overnight, night shift, and they would use my office as kind of like a break room. And I don't know if I was like too sensitive about this, but it was never told to me that like my office was multi-use, that other people were using it. It was never put to me like that. It was put to me like, this is your office, you can move in. And so I finally was like, I talked to my supervisor, not the sexual guy, but it was another guy. And I was like, hey, I need a key, to my office. I had been waiting for one. And I said, I think it's because I think people are coming into my office at nighttime. And I don't know if that's okay, because I think I have like records and stuff. And like the nurses, of course, can see the records, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if they can see psych records. Like, I just didn't know. And I'm like trying not to get in trouble. I have to be ethical. I have to follow like ethical guidelines, and there's HIPAA and all this shit. So he's like, yeah, I think the nurses are going in there and stuff. So he got me a key. And so I was able to like, lock them out, I guess. And after that, this charge nurse was so mean to me and just like wouldn't talk to me. I would say things and she would ignore me. And it just felt like way too toxic. It felt like I wasn't welcome, and and because I have anxiety disorder, I do. It's diagnosed. And my mom has anxiety as well, and my sister does. And well, sorry, I'm not gonna call her out, but yeah, my sister's anxious. She's not diagnosed, but I'm completely diagnosed because of my anxiety and my inability to confront. And even thinking like, how could you even confront something like this? Like what is there to confront? What do you do? I mean, if I would have went to like HR or something, like I would have been fired anyway. Like these people were here forever, and they had so much. They felt comfortable doing this kind of stuff, and especially with the guy that was inappropriate, he felt comfortable talking like this in front of me, a new employee, and so I was just like, "There's nothing really I can do about this." It's an uncomfortable situation. It's an uncomfortable job. The patients really didn't bother me, other than the guy lunging towards me on my first or second day. But I mean, I had empathy for them and understanding. And I'm like a left-leaning person anyway, so I really believe in people are born different, and people come from different situations and upbringings and different traumas, different economic classes, and you can't really blame somebody, completely for like things that they've done, like, oh, okay, drug possession, stealing, this and that, whatever. So I had empathy for them, and they were not even the worst part of the job. It was a freaking other employees and the supervisors with power. So anyway, I don't even know. Okay, so that was just, my first job. And then I had another job working in the Army, part of the community services. For that job, I wasn't even interviewed. They looked at my resume and they said, oh, can you, work with us? And it's a contracted job. So it wasn't in the military, but it was like for the Army. And it was like a new thing they were trying to put together to prove, because I guess there was drama with the Army, and to prove that they were helping, survivors of fallen soldiers and stuff. And I was supposed to be like the social work type of person, and then my partner was supposed to be like the financial counselor. And this woman was so toxic. She would meet with clients like behind my back and going to lunch with them. These are women that the men just died, in combat, and just befriend them and like keep stuff from me. And she would demand to be in the same room as I'm giving like what I considered to be as counseling, bereavement counseling. And I just thought that was completely inappropriate. And she would eavesdrop if I'm talking to the supervisor about my issues. And just her whole mannerism was very abrasive, and so then she talked about me behind my back with the casualty office. And so when I would come in and visit and like request paperwork and stuff, they were very like passive, and just dismissive. So that ate me up too. I actually got on an anti-anxiety sleep medication for that job because I was just so worried like every night, And granted, like, yes, I have issues because I'm non-confrontational. I'm very avoidant. I'm very anxious, okay? I don't like the conflict because it just traumatizes my body. Like, it just takes over my adrenaline and my system and just shuts me down. And I just hate it. And I tried to, talk to my supervisor about it, and just nothing, changed. Like, she was still in the job. So anyway, I decided to leave that job. So anyway, that takes us, we moved to South Korea, and I did work through high school and I worked in college. So never had a problem working. I worked very hard for my family's business. I have been in very professional settings. I've had to answer phones, be very professional. And eventually, when I was in got a job with Red Cross in Pennsylvania. I had to speak in front of 100, 150, 200 people. I've been on the news before. It's just, I've had to overcome a lot of anxiety to do some things that I've had to do. So it's not a problem with working. It really is it's more of a social issue for me with anxiety, at working with toxic people, dealing with it, like separating toxic work environment. And because I'm not like that great on paper, or I would get these bad jobs, I guess. And that's where these toxic people would be, So I don't know. I think that's because I was new and inexperienced. I would get the shit jobs, and then they would, of course, like treat you like shit once you're there. And you being young and having rose-colored glasses, being so excited, so motivated, like older people would be so offended by that, and they would resent you for it. So anyway, when we came back from Korea, I was in Florida, went through these issues with my parents, not getting along with them, and wanting things to be different with my own children. I don't want their abusive behaviors experienced by my kids. So I got a job finally with Red Cross, but it was in Pennsylvania. It was several states over. And when I got there, people were like, why the hell are you here from Florida? And when I got there, Hurricane Sandy happened. And so it was this, Red Cross was like responding to this, and they were like, why the hell would you come down? And it was cold, and there was so much snow up there. But I was there for a year and a half, and I think I worked there for a total of a year or a year and a half. So we decided, okay, we don't like life up there. It's really cold. It's snowy. Again, another, toxic work environment, or, just my anxiety, not being able to handle the situation. At that point, I had 3 kids at that point, and so we were going to move back down south. But I told myself, I do not want to be near family. I don't want to be in Florida. I think at this point I was going to try to olive branch and reach back out, to my parents and stuff, and try to establish another relationship. And so we decided, okay, we're going to look at Georgia. And so we sold everything, and I really wanted to be a full-time like RV family, and we already had a small camper, and we kind of actually still fit in it as a family of 5, but we had to be really creative with it. And I actually was able to get like a massage table that fit the narrow walkway in the camper, so at night like we would all fit and had our spot. So that was the plan, and my husband was going to try to find like a remote job in HR, because he was doing HR in Pennsylvania. And so I was going to take care of the kids. And we had always decided, like, hey, I would be the primary. Like, after this job with the Red Cross, and then my husband working in HR, and us just not having time for our kids. And, like, it was stressful anyway. And we had to pay a babysitter. And then we, had to pay for preschool at, like, YMCA and stuff. It just wasn't, like, worth it, because at the end of the day you're depleted with energy and money, from childcare. So I was like, well, because of my anxiety, and you don't have anxiety, and like he's pretty rough and abrasive anyway, so he can work, and he's a guy. So he was going to try to find a remote job, and we were going to be in a camper. And I think we were going to try to just stick with this camper and like extend the living space with like tents, but everything's gonna be fine because we're gonna travel and we're gonna be outside most of the time. And so we stayed. Where did okay, so we ended up in Georgia, and we found a campsite there, but the campsite was full, and we couldn't stay there. So we went back up a few like exits, and we ended up in South Carolina and found a really beautiful campsite. And it was near a gorgeous natural beach that didn't have anything, no businesses or buildings on the beach. It was completely natural. It had old oak trees that had fallen down on the beach, so it like looked like fossilized trees, and you could see the root system, and it was just gorgeous. And so we stayed at that campground for like a month, and my husband was like trying to find like these remote jobs, and we were just getting really irritated and annoyed, at our situation. Our fuses were short. We enrolled our son into preschool there at the Y, and he was just acting out, and and then like eventually he was like kicked out of the priest of the YMCA because like he would snatch, stuff, and I think he hit a kid and all this shit. And fast forward, he's got ADHD and autism. I love him so much, but I mean, he was just typical kid, and he had like control issues, of course, and I'll get into that later on. That comes into play. So one day I was driving the kids around. I would pack them snacks, and we would go to these different boat docks. I need to hurry up because I got 3 minutes left. And we would have picnics and look at the boats and stuff. And one day I like pulled down this road, and I went all the way to the end of it, and I found this small little beach that was part of a huge river. So that's kind of how the beach was formed. And people drove on it, and it was just so beautiful. And it was such a cute neighborhood. It was tucked away. And I just fell in love with it. And I called my husband, and I said, oh, you got to get down here to me, and this is where I am. Come meet me, I'm recording right now. Okay, I'm so sorry. I had somebody walk in, my daughter, and he met me, and we just fell in love with it, and it was so beautiful. And we went around the neighborhood, and subsequently, fast forward, we see so many people doing this, but we were driving around the neighborhood looking at all the houses. Nothing was really there. There's a port there that was shut down. There's nothing fancy. It's just like a lower middle class. Actually, the school is a Title I school, so I mean, it was like a poor area. So I mean, somewhat, in some regards. So we found a house that was for sale, but the only way we could get a VA loan is if we proved employment. So my husband started looking at local jobs, and he found an HR job working for like a nonprofit, which I'll get into that in the next episode. So we were able to get a VA loan to get our little house, and it had been on the market several times and for a really long time. And I don't think anybody bought it because the roof needed to be repaired. But this time the owner, I guess he was in California, he agreed to fix the roof. So we ended up scrapping the idea of doing full-time camper living, because what I really ultimately wanted was for our family to be in nature and to have a lot of experiences. And this comes into play later, and I will do another episode and continue from there. And I just want to say thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the journal spread. And remember, I have a Payhip subscription. It's linked below if you're interested in any of the art that you see on this spread. I make monthly art printables for your journals, scrapbooks, snail mail, crafts, whatever you want to use them for. I actually have a friend that's going to use them for a junk journal class. So, hey, hit me up. Love you guys, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.